next inductee is Mr. Brad Gibson, and presenting him into the Hall of Fame is Will Short.
Well, I want to just emphasize what Jim did. It's an honor here tonight. I want to congratulate all the inductees and all the people that got honored here tonight. This is a great moment in Minnesota wrestling every week, every year when they do this. And Steve, you do a great job. Steve Ricard. He also nominated Brad Gibson, correct, Steve? So I want to recognize him for recognizing my college roommate, Brad Gibson. And when that buzzer goes off, Steve, you come up and try to move him out of here. I met Brad 30 years ago. We met at the Minnesota Wrestling, Wisconsin-Minnesota All-Star Classic. Todd Springer, who's here, he was with us. There he is. Springer and I we had known each other a little bit. We did know Brad. We met at there. And back then you got to go, which maybe some of you remember, you got to go stay at a cheerleader's house for Coon Rapids. And the three of us did not perform well the next day. And actually, I think they stopped doing the All-Star Classic after that. And then, yeah, so that's the first time Brad and I met. My wife, Jody, most beautiful woman in the world, tells me that God has a plan, and he always has a plan, and God had a plan to put Brad in my life. Gib was my roommate. And I know he's got a lot of stories. I don't want to tell the stories that he wants to tell, so I'm not going to tell them. But we roomed together our freshman year. We signed on with what should have been probably the greatest Gopher team of all time, which none of you know about, because all the guys that were on the team when we came in as freshmen never wrestled again. And so, but there was things that were going on. Interestingly enough, we thought that we'd win a national title, and Brad and I would be in red shirt. And both of us ended up wrestling that year. And it was a very difficult year. I was a little technically ahead of Brad, and Brad was much stronger than I was. Matter of fact, his whole life, he was much stronger than probably everybody in this room. And so we both had our problems in the wrestling room every day, and it was a struggle every day. And we got forced into wrestling and competing. There were some very interesting times at the University of Minnesota. And we battled through a lot of things, and if Brad would not have been my roommate, I probably would not have got through that season. It was, the reason that I say that is, everything in my life that I thought was hard, I would tell Brad about, and then he would tell me a story about how much harder his life was, and then I go, oh yeah, that's right. I'm soft, you're strong. And Brad grew up on a farm, and he'd tell me stories, and I'll let him tell them. A couple things that I want to say about Brad at the University of Minnesota over the next 3 years. I watched a guy who came from a very small town, Chicago, Alberta, who came to the city, come to the University of Minnesota. He'll tell you he didn't know much. He didn't know much about technique and wrestling. He just went out and grabbed guys and threw them down. He learned how to wrestle, and he learned how to compete, and he learned how to work. During his time at the University of Minnesota, under his leadership, we were the first team that beat Iowa in a dual meet. We were the first, yes. While Brad was one of the leaders on the team, we were the first Gopher team to beat Oklahoma State in a dual meet. We were the first Gopher team that sold out the pavilion. And I remember watching Brad at the Big Ten Championships his senior year, wrestle a phenomenal tournament. And go out and win Big Ten championships, and it was a highlight for me as his roommate and friend to watch him go and win that. Brad went on; he was a two-time All-American. In his final year at the NCAA's, we had a lot of guys not perform at their highest level, me included, that day. And there was a lot of guys that maybe weren't maybe performing at his highest level, but he held it together, and he wrestled one of his best tournaments of his career. And he was a leader for us that day again. He finished his career two-time All-American, and just an inspiration for everybody in the room. I tell my son and some of the guys that I coach with, Nick Wanzik, I'm just going to use this example, but all the Simley wrestlers know Brad. And I've told them stories about my roommate in college. And Brad perfected a series, and I called it when I was growing up a hay baler. It's kind of a throwing situation where you'd overhook a guy and he'd throw it, and he could do it to anybody. And so the kids in the assembly wrestling room know it as the Gibson. And he actually has a name, he has a move named after him in our wrestling room. And Jake and Nick went up and did a camp up for Brad last summer. And they came back and they said the same thing that I will say to all of you. Brad is the most outstanding human being I know. He is a family man. He's dedicated to his children and his wife Amy, who he loves. And they make sacrifices every day to give their kids every opportunity that he can to be successful in life. And that, I personally would not have survived my time at the University of Minnesota without knowing him and being a part of his life. All of us, let's welcome Brad Gibson to the home.
Well, love you, buddy. If I would have known you were such a good speaker, I would not have chose you to be my everything that Will was saying there, he was part of that leadership, and if it wouldn't have been for Will, I wouldn't have made it through the program. A few people in this room years ago had the pleasure of meeting my mom. And by the way, I didn't write anything down, so just bear with me. Okay? My mom, God bless her, was tenacious. She passed away my senior year in November, right when the season was getting started. And she was passionate about everything in her life. And she was nuts about wrestling. And anybody that's been in an elementary tournament and watched some of the moms and dads, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, she was intense. And she was, she put a bug in my ear when I was probably 11, 12 years old. We just moved to town, got cable TV, and after moving in from the farm, and she's like, Bradley, come in here, you know. And if she used Bradley, if she used the L-E-Y, you're either in big trouble or it was super important, you know. So the NCAA tournaments were on television, and I might have been in 7th grade at the time, and she was talking about, this is what you really need to be thinking about, you know. This is the best as it gets, you know. Division I, think about going, you know, and it's like, okay, Mom, you know, just by fate, dumb luck, however you want to put it, Will, buzzer's ringing already. It wasn't that many years later, after that, I was sitting across from Jay Robinson, you know, and God bless Jay, and everything that he's done for me and my family and my life, and how he changed my life. And he asked me, he said, why do you want to go to Minnesota? They didn't need me. They had Marty Morgan, they had Chris Short, Matt Olson from New Prague had just signed on, all underclassmen. They didn't need another guy my size. They didn't need another guy my weight. And I just said, Jay, I said, you know, my family's here. And my family, God bless them, they're all here. They support me through all this, and it's just not my immediate family. It's Chicago, Town and Morris, you know, all of this, the whole wrestling family, all of them. He said, I grew up here, this is where I competed, this is where I want to stay. And he said, well, and he was honest. He said, I really don't need you. I said, that doesn't matter. I said, I want to know if I'm good enough to compete at this level. You know, and that's why I wanted to go there. And he shook my hand and he said, that's what I'm looking for, you know. And then after that, like Will was talking, then the beatings started. I mean, I was so out of my league there, you guys. You know, we wrestled, we played football, and after that, we didn't do anything else. we worked. We worked in a farm, we had a farm, and that was it. We didn't have all the all the extra camps and all the clubs these guys have nowadays. I was just, had no idea what I was getting into. And so I had Marty Morgan and Chris Short and all them guys that I was working out with, and it was just a slaughter. You know? Does everyone everyone know Marty Morgan in this room? First year's man. Kind of hardcore, kind of intense. On my recruiting trip, you want to see Marty have an out-of-body experience? Light a cigarette up in front of him on your recruiting trip. He took me to a party. I thought that's what everyone did at a party, you know. So he could not wait to get me into practice. Then kill me. That's what I wanted to do. But you know what? Thank God for Marty. Thank God for Will. You know, we got to be, after that beating we took our freshman year, pretty soon you start to get tougher. You know, you start to get stronger. You know, and things got easier. Instead of just thinking about surviving, you know, and doubting yourself about if you're good enough to compete against somebody or good enough to compete at this level, then you start thinking about, you start thinking about Big Ten championships. You start thinking about, Americans, you know. And thank God for Jay, because I just about had myself talked out about being good enough. I was ready to go. You know, I didn't think I was good enough to be at that level. And he kept me there. You know, and Will kept me there, Marty kept me there, and all them guys, you know, Grant and Gary Kett, all them guys that were there at the time made you believe in yourself, you know. Thank God that I went there when I went there with the guys I went with Will, with the coaches I had, you know, because without that, honestly, I don't think I would ever have made it without you guys, you know. The chemistry was right, everything was right there. Thank God for my family, Dad, love you. All the siblings, Jane, thank God for taking care of Dad and keeping him out of trouble, okay? Brandon, thank God for you and everything you guys are doing for Minnesota right now, all right? You and your coaches, you're doing a fantastic job. And listen, if Art Grayson's ever wrestled someday, which I hope they don't, I'm gonna cheer for mine. If you guys want to hear some stories later, just not me. I got a couple good ones about Billy too. Thank everybody, just not my family, the whole wrestling family, everybody that's part of this. I'm honored for this, and God bless. Thank you. Buddies, thank God for everything that he does for this sport, everything he does for this banquet. And I got some stories about him too.
You would never believe this, but when I answered the phone one day last winter, I said, "Hello, this is Steve," because that's how I answered the phone. It was Gibby, and he goes, "Yeah." "What's up? Who did this?" I said, "I did." And I'm thinking to myself, I'm safe because I'm long distance from Chicago. He can't touch me. Because he comes up behind you every day that he sees you and sneaks up behind you and he squeezes the hell out of your neck. That's what he did. And he asked me, "Do I got to give a speech?" "Yeah." "Well, it'll be pretty damn short." Look at that. Thanks, buddy. I know I'm going to get killed anyway, so